Okay, so AI-generated images are absolutely everywhere now, right? From these stunningly realistic portraits to landscapes that just shouldn't exist. But here's the thing, these images aren't just a new kind of paintbrush. They're changing the very way we see the world. So today, we're going to dive into a really powerful new framework called Filomythos that can help us make sense of this strange and exciting new reality.
You know, for more than a century, we've had this basic agreement that a photograph more or less was a record of something that actually happened in the world. But AI, well, it just blows that trust to pieces. It forces us to ask this really big, unsettling question. If an image isn't a snapshot of reality anymore, what in the world is it? And how can we possibly find any truth in it?
And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. A photograph is an image of the world. It's like a footprint in the sand, a trace, a direct reference that something was there. An AI image, though, is completely different. It's generated from data. It hasn't seen the world. It has just scanned billions of our records about the world to cook up the most statistically likely picture. And that right there is a fundamental break in what an image even is.
So, how do we get our heads around this? Well, here's our roadmap. First, we'll tackle what we're calling the crisis of the image. Then, we'll introduce this new method, Filomythos, and use it to uncover the hidden myths baked into the data. After that, we'll explore the very strange gaze of the machine. And finally, we'll talk about our powerful new role in all of this as the threshold human.
Okay, let's dive in with the core problem, the crisis of the image. For generations, we've just assumed that a picture points to something real out there. This section is all about facing the fact that that fundamental connection is getting weaker and weaker by the day.
So here's the most crucial point to get. AI models learn from the internet. They learn from our photos, our art, our writing, basically our entire digital shadow. They are not learning from reality itself. And the result is what the source material calls a synthetic epistemology. It's just a fancy way of saying it's a way of knowing that isn't built on first-hand experience, but on finding statistical patterns in a giant pile of data. So if our old way of seeing is broken, we're obviously going to need some new tools. And that brings us right to our second section and a potential solution, Filomythos. You can think of it as a kind of survival guide for navigating this brand new visual world.
So what is Filomythos really? Well, at its heart, it's a way to analyze the partnership between a person and an AI. It's a visual dialectic, which basically means a structured back-and-forth conversation. It's not just asking, what does this image show? It's asking, how was it made? Whose point of view does it represent? And, maybe most importantly, what did it leave out? A concept this framework calls the void.
And this brings us to section 3, where we're going to put Filomythos into action. We'll start by digging into the raw material the AI learns from to uncover the myth in the data. These hidden stories that are secretly driving what these images look like. We usually think of data as neutral, right? Just objective facts. But Filomythos says we should think of it as a data mythos. The best way to picture it is as the cultural DNA of the internet. It's a massive collective story packed with all of our society's biases, stereotypes, and values, all hiding behind this thin little curtain of objectivity. And this myth is what the AI learns as gospel truth.
And get this, it's not just the data. The algorithm itself has its own agenda. The source calls this code willin', or the code's will. See, the algorithm is designed with its own goals, maybe for speed, or for a certain look, or just for pure efficiency. This acts like a quiet editor's bias, subtly shaping every single image based on its own program priorities, totally separate from what you even ask for.
So, how in the world do you spot all this stuff at work? The key is the glitch. I love this quote. The glitch is not an error, it's the fissure of truth. It's that moment where the system's perfect facade cracks open, and, for just a second, you get a peek at the hidden assumptions it was built on. Here's a great way to think about it. A glitch, a hand with 7 fingers, a building that defies physics, that's the AI's Freudian slip. It's not just a mistake you should try to fix. For Filomythos, that weird mistake is the exact starting point for a real investigation.
All this talk about interpretation leads us perfectly into our fourth section, the gaze of the machine. Because if we're going to be good partners with this technology, we have to understand the huge difference between how we see the world and how an algorithm sees it.
I mean, our human gaze is never neutral, is it? It's loaded with our feelings, our desires, our history. We look for meaning everywhere. But machine vision, as you can see here, is a whole different beast. It's driven by cold, hard math. It's not looking for meaning. It's just looking for patterns so it can slap a label on something. It is completely, and sometimes kind of terrifyingly,
indifferent.
But here's the fascinating twist. That very indifference, it can actually be a powerful tool. Because the machine doesn't have our emotional blind spots, it can point out huge systemic patterns that we've just totally gotten used to. Its cold, statistical way of looking can expose biases in our society that our own messy human eyes have learned to just glaze over. And that brings us to our final section, becoming the threshold human. So with all these complex forces at play, what's our part in all this? How are we supposed to operate in this new world? The answer is to become what the source calls the threshold human. Now, this is not about being a passive user who just types in prompts. No. A threshold human is an active, critical collaborator. You stand at the threshold, the meeting point, between your human idea and the machine's creation, and you always hold on to the final responsibility for what it means.
This partnership basically works like a three-step dance. Step 1, the human brings the deep question. Not just a picture of a cat, but a really complex, artistic, or a philosophical problem. Step 2, the machine does its thing, processing data and generating some visual proposals. But the crucial third step, that belongs to us. That's critical interpretation. We're the ones who have to analyze the results, hunt for those glitches, identify the biases, and pull out the real insight.
Ultimately, this is the balance we have to find. AI is this incredibly powerful, almost mandatory collaborator now, but it can never be in charge. The final, uniquely human job of making judgments, finding meaning, and being ethically responsible, that stays with us. That's our top. So, let's wrap this all up in your Filomythos Toolkit. First, always remember, an AI image reflects data, not reality. Second, know that this data is packed with a data mythos of hidden biases. Third, watch out for the code's will, the algorithm's own agenda. Fourth, treat glitches like your best clues, not just mistakes. And finally, embrace your new role as the threshold human, a critical, responsible partner in this whole new creative process. And I'll leave you with this final question to think about. As we use these tools more and more, creating images based on a statistical reflection of our own past, are we really the ones in control? Are we training the AI, or is its vast biased data set slowly, and maybe without us even noticing, training us how to see?